Progress daily. In order to get the opportunity, you must show up by any means, whatever it takes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audate podcast. I am Lory Audate, the co host for Audate, and together we discuss business, sales, and SaaS. How are you doing, Andy?
Phenomenal today. I'm super phenomenal, actually. Getting prepared for just to have an amazing day today.
That's great. That's great. I'd love to hear the energy. Well, I want to connect about a topic that we haven't actually touched upon, but I believe it's very important for mindset when it comes as a business owner and the mindset to scale. So, I want to get your thoughts first. Do you believe in competition or collaboration as a business owner?
I think there's both. I think there's a little bit of competition, and then you got to collaborate with the right people. But ideally, I make an effort to not look at competitors in a negative light, and I make an effort to look at competitors and say, hey, how can we work together to create a win-win, a win in your business? Because there's more than enough for everyone to hit their goals.
Okay. So, with that being said, when you start your day as a business owner, so you have meetings, you have sales calls, well, you work out in the beginning of the day, you do cold plunge. But when you start your day, do you go after it like a shark? Like literally the show Shark Tank. Like, I gotta go kill my competition, like squash them, take all the money, take all the sales. Is that something that drives you? Or do you wake up and ask yourself, what deal or collaboration can I come up with to get me ahead?
I think about the future that I want to create for myself, my family, my team, and the people who believe in me and the people who depend on me. And I focus on that. I'm not focusing on my competition. I'm not focusing on, man, who do I gotta crush today? Who do I gotta go kill? Who do I gotta take out? I just make an effort to focus on people who are want to see me win, and I want to show up powerful for them. So I get in the cold plunge. Today I came out. My body was very chilly today when I got out of the cold plunge. The water today was in the 50s, and I was like, okay, I love this. I love the cold water, and I go underneath the water, and I'm thinking about who can I serve, who can I help, who can I add value to, and who's depending on me. Because when I think about life, I think about like just this time frame of life that's like start and end. You get the alerts, whether it's on social media or your friends or family, that's like, hey, this person is no longer alive, and I think about there's going to be a time where that happens to me. There's going to be a time where that happens to me. And when that happens to me, I want to know like I put it all on the line and I created something that was living past me. I just saw something on social media of a gentleman who ran the aquarium in Georgia, the CEO who ran or the president who ran the aquarium, the state aquarium in the state of Georgia. And this gentleman started working at the aquarium in 2003, and then he rose up the ranks. And after 21 years, within that 21 years, he became the president. And while he became the president, it started a lot of the things ran because, like, a lot of the operations ran around this one person. And the question is, who's now going to run the aquarium? And they don't have the right SOPs and processes because everything was run around this one guy. And what I envision is that I can create something that lives on completely past me and is doing very good in this world.
That's a good point. And I have actually seen that in local businesses and acquaintances that I know, just Facebook. I mean, you can log on and see kind of where people are in their business journey. But in particular, there was a business owner here that unfortunately passed away, and they just decided to close multiple franchise because he was still,
Hmm.
heavily involved. And I think that is scary to think, well, it might have taken him 20, 30 years, but maybe he just wasn't at that stage he put in the work to scale, but maybe he wasn't at the stage to hand it off to be ran without him.
Yeah.
So I do think that's something that unfortunately happens. So when you mentioned that in regards to collaboration, so you're thinking by collaborating, it's not just dependent on Andy. Andy's the one doing everything. Andy's the one that brought in the sales. Andy brought in this client. Andy did everything. It's really to have a team. It sounds like is that how you view
Yeah.
collaborations?
Yeah. because competition is I am against you, right? That's what competition is. When I say collaboration is how can I put you and how can we determine two areas that, yeah, we may have products that, conflict, we may have offers that conflict, but there is this one area where I'm not that great in and you're greater in, or there's a way that we can both work together, and that's the point that we want to accomplish. We want to get to the point where we can identify where we can work together, and that's the collaboration that I'm talking about. So there are times where I looked at different businesses and I said, hey, I can share some stories, on how we collaborated rather than competed. But it all comes down to how can we create a win-win together, and let's focus on the winning aspect rather than competition of I want to take this away from you, or you're going to take this away from me. That's competition. I want to identify where are some areas that we both can win, and that's where I think that you sleep better at night knowing that the person who could have been your enemy and your competitor is actually your friend, and you guys got doing business together.
Yes, and it actually reminds me of in real estate. So when it comes to investment properties or many times on commercial, so multiple units, apartment deals, developments, sometimes it is one person funding it, but it's rare. Usually it is a collaboration of multiple investors. And I always thought that was interesting once I started to actually learn that side of real estate, because what you may be seeing online is like, well, Warren Buffett, he might buy a whole apartment complex, or, Grant Cardone, he's like, I could buy the whole building. But there are many investors that start with one property and then they go to 4 units. And then once they want to scale, they end up doing a collaboration to get there faster, because it
Yeah.
might take them 15 years to be able to buy a 30 unit, with 30 doors, versus they're like, well, if I just make the deal in the next 6 months, I'm in the game. Would you say business ownership is similar in that sense, where you can get ahead and jump to a whole new level by being open to a collaboration, instead of like, nope, I got to fund everything. I got to build it from scratch. Let me go hustle. Let me learn every single part of it.
Yeah, let me share with you an example. So, like for example, in my business, I'm in the software industry, and in the being in the software industry, in order to make it work, I have to build out a technology team that is doing development. So I got to, so they're developing the sites, it's just developing the campaigns, the code that goes on top of the software to make it work the way that we want it to work, things of that nature. So I got to build a tech team. Then I got to build an onboarding team. I got to build customer retention and add customer retention systems and processes through customer success. So I got to build a customer success management team, onboarding team, admin and billing team, and so on and so forth. So I'm building all these teams. Someone years ago, I used to look at other people who served the same customer base, and I used to look at them as competition. I used to say, like, you are a competitor, until I started to change my mindset and I started to say, maybe there's opportunity here. And so a recent discovery, for example, is there are people who don't want to, that I would used to look at them as competition, but today I look at opportunities for collaboration, where now today I say, hey, build I'll take care of the onboarding, I'll take care of the tech, you just supply the customer. How about that? And we can do a revenue share. We can share the revenue on the customer, rather than you saying, okay, this person, like let's say a customer like Walmart, for us to go and get Walmart, rather than you say, like, I'm gonna get the customer of Walmart and you can't have them. Why don't we both get the customer of Walmart? And when you get the customer, I'll service the customer. How about that? You get the customer, I get the customer, and we do a revenue share on that revenue, rather than me trying to do trying to do everything. So these are some ways that you can create these massive opportunities. I'll share with you another example that's taken place in the software. I've seen a business. I'm not gonna go too much into the details, but I've seen a business where this business is specifically in the technology management space. So they build out like the infrastructure for tech and softwares and marketing campaigns, so on and so forth. So they build out these services. Now, like I shared, you're going the tech team, the developers, you're going to need the backend support, you're going to need softwares to manage your business. So for example, a software to manage that type of business is, let's say you're going to need Salesforce and you're paying a fee to Salesforce. And This one that I saw, one of the businesses is doing about $5 million in revenue. Okay, I'm just gonna give you that example. So this business is doing $5 million in revenue. What they did is they went to their competitor and they said, "Look, man, you're good. Your skill set, like you can sell, you can do the tech, but where you shine is in leading the tech team. That's where you shine." So this $5 million business went to hit their competitor, which is another $5 million business in the same space. They serve the same customer. They serve in the same business, and the CEO went to the other CEO and said, "Look, out of both of us, you're really great at the back end and the tech. I'm really great at the sales. Now I can expand my skill set and try to lead a tech team, but where I really shine is the sales. And where you really shine, you can expand and expand your skill set and double down on sales, but where you really shine is the tech. So why don't we come together and let's build a $10 million company that we both own? You focus on the tech, I focus on the sales." So now these two companies come together. So these two businesses come together and they go from a $5 million in separately to a $10 million business together. But here's what's interesting about this. They both have, because they're in the same industry, they both really have the same cost. Like, for example, they both have Salesforce. So one company's paying $3,000 a month for Salesforce. The other company's paying $3,000 a month for Salesforce. By them coming together, do they need both Salesforce subscriptions? No, they don't. So they cancel one of the subscriptions and they just merge the two. They both have a marketing spend of whatever X dollars a month. Let's just say it's 100 grand a month. They both spend 100 grand individually. By them combining together and spending $200,000 together, they're now able to acquire more market share. So that $10 million company becomes $20 million much faster just because they are acquiring more customers all under one umbrella. And it becomes more profitable because instead of them having two Salesforce subscriptions, instead of them having two of the same roles, they now merge everything into one business and putting all the resources under one business, therefore making a much more profitable business and a much more higher, the revenue is much more high, becomes much more high because they're getting customers much more quickly. That's the mindset of collaboration versus competition. Competition is, you do your thing over there, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna stay small and try to take care of my nuts. You try to stay small and take care of your nuts. But instead, hey, why don't we build a bigger pool? You take care of what I've created so far, and then I'm gonna go get more, and you create better results long term.
Yes, I agree because I think many times as business owners, if a customer is asking for an additional product or service that's not available in that moment, the initial reaction for the business owner might be like, "I'll add it on. I'll develop that new product. I'll bring a team member for that. I'll create new SOPs. I'll invest." And they start building, and before you know it, it's like, are you even doing what you initially wanted to do, or do you just have a big menu of things now and a big team, and that was not the initial model? Would you agree that sometimes as business owners it's okay to say, maybe I don't need to build that? If my customer wants something added on, it's okay to go to so and so business owner and be like, "Hey, I'm keep getting this request. If I send them to you, can you just give me a revenue share?" I know there's pros and cons, but it just sounds so much easier to manage a referral than to build out a whole team, figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, it allows you to grow. So some of the strategies that we've done is we have partners who service our customers and add value to our customers' businesses. And instead of me trying to spread myself thin, I'm able to focus on what I do best. And everyone gets a chance to eat from the pie and everyone gets a chance to win. But what's interesting is I get a bigger pie. That's what's interesting. Because I have other people that are part of my business, then I am able to create a bigger pie rather than spread myself thin and try to become everything to everyone.
Very true. Where do you think the mindset of competition comes from? That mindset
Scarcity,
of
scarcity.
That's true because I was actually going to refer to that is if you believe that there's only 100 customers and you're like, I'm going to try to go after all 100 of them, that would be limited scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Instead of like, there are so many thousands of customers, I don't care if Joe's shop takes 50 of them. Like, that's not my concern. Is there anything specific that caused you to shift mindset? Like, were you ever in competition
Yes.
as initial business owner?
Yeah. I recall like waking up with an energy like I gotta go dominate over my competition, like you're my competition. And then I lost that. I lost that for a while, and it was because I transitioned to becoming a coach, and I was a coach for many years. Where I'm like, I don't have any competition because who's competing against Andy Audate? It's like I'm the only Andy Audate. That's the product that I was selling was Andy Audate as a coach for a while. The only Andy Audate. It wasn't like I was selling iPhones and like you have iPhones and I have iPhones. We have the same product. Now, there, granted, I spent years, doing coaching, like for example, like speaker training coaching. That was one of our products. That was one of my biggest programs, and I remember thinking to myself, well, yes, there's other speaker trainers out there, but no one is Andy our date. So the only product that I had was me. So I didn't have competition back then. So I remember saying to myself, actually, one day, I was like, man, I want competition. I want that feeling because my background came from selling cell phones, and I was selling cell phones for so many years. And I remember just going back and forth with other different vendors who were selling cell phones, and I was saying to myself like, "You're my competition." Like, if a customer is looking to buy an iPhone, they're either gonna come to me and buy it or come to you and buy it. And then, so business selling cell phones, I had a competition. Then I transitioned to coaching, no competition, and I said I want competition. And then I got into the software sales, and then that's when I realized, okay, there's a lot of competition, right? If you search a CRM today, there's other people, and there's a reason why for that. Like the software business is cutthroat. The software business is straight to the point. The software business is very lucrative. You get a very high value, a multiple on your money, or in the business in general. So I think that there's so much opportunity in the software business that so many people are in it. And at least that I see, right? But majority of people aren't in it. And then number two, in the software business. So in the beginning of my software business journey, I used to look at other software companies. I used to say, this is competition, your competition. And then I started to realize, how can I collaborate? So for example, I look at HubSpot and I say, hey, my software could be the pre CRM for HubSpot users. So instead of saying, I got to take you off of HubSpot, I would just go to the customer and say, actually, keep HubSpot. My software is on top of HubSpot. You can actually integrate my software with HubSpot. And that's when people are like, oh, okay, I can use you. I can work with you. So that's an example of how the mindset of competition has changed for me. Instead of saying cancel HubSpot, I'm saying use us plus HubSpot, which you already have. So that's some examples of the mindset for me has completely shifting.
Yes, I actually remember when you mentioned that you wanted competition because you mentioned something like it's just not fun. Like it for you, the fun part of business is coming up with the marketing and developing something that gets people to take action in terms of like funnels and things of that sort. But you got to be careful what you ask for because there is a lot of competition on software, and also pricing is very different on software versus coaching. Coaching, I mean, you can make it up, right? Like you can charge for whatever for your time. But with software, that you see some softwares out there that are low ticket, and then you see some software like Salesforce that's really robust and higher cost. It sounds like though that healthy amount of competition helped you kind of turn on like Andy 2.0. Is that why you
Yeah,
wanted competition, or why? What was the reasoning for when you were a coach and you're like, well, it's working, I'm making money, but like I want competition? Where do you think that came from?
I think I wanted to be in a pond with other people. Yes, there were other coaches, but there was nothing that made me feel like I was working with other people. Like I felt like I was by myself as a coach because I was the only one that sold Andy Date that way, right? I was the only Andy Date. And in software, there's other CRMs. And even the CRM I sell, there's other people who sell the same CRM. And for a while, I was thinking like, okay, I don't want you to go to that company. I want you to work with me. That was my thought process for a long time. And then my business didn't start to grow until I started to put myself under a collaborative mindset. And the collaborative mindset was, how could I create a win-win with you? We all want the same customer, right? The customer that's going to work within our software is going to do X. We all want that same customer. is there enough that is there a portion of the process that I can do that could help me get to my long-term goals faster? Now, most people don't care about the number of customers per se, like in a market share. They don't care about that. What they care about is what the number of customers in a market share can do for them in their personal life. So, for example, you can say, hey, if I acquire, like last night, I was at a mastermind meeting, and there was a gentleman who is in a specific, he's in a specific medicinal industry, and there's only so many customers that partake in that specific medicinal product, and so there is a market share, and there's a limit. But when I think about, when I go deeper as to why do you want the more market share? Well, it's because of kids and the family. So like there's a deeper meaning. So the question is, how can I get to that portion faster? How can I get to the deeper meaning much faster? When I think about the reason why do I want to create these wins is because of you. Like I'm inspired to create a lifestyle for you and a lifestyle for our family that is completely different than anything you and I have ever done, experience, right? The fact that we were in Hawaii 2 weeks ago, and that's something that you and I both talked about years ago, is profound to me, and we were really sipping the pina coladas in Hawaii, like we talked about, right? And then I'm like, wow, we did it. And I'm like, what else is there that we can accomplish? And even just like yesterday, I sent you a text message. I said, I'm ready for another vacation. And I'm like, and what did you tell me? Do you remember what you told me?
I don't remember.
You
What
said
did I
choose.
say?
I said, where do you want to go? And then
Oh,
you,
yes. I said just choose a random spot, like throw something at the map.
yeah. And I'm like, that's the fact that we can actually do that. We can actually, yes, just choose a random state and say, hey, we could choose a random state and say, I'm gonna go to this specific city. I'm gonna go to this specific state. And that's what I think is cool, and that's what I'm working towards, is creating that for us and for our kids and for our kids. There's inspiration that I get when I look at other people's lifestyle and I say, okay, that is actually possible. That's something I never thought about, bringing my kids into certain business room meetings. Like I was listening to a gentleman this morning where he was talking about, he's so advanced in his business that he was at a meeting with Warren Buffett, and he brought his 14-year-old daughter to go ahead and see. And the 14-year-old daughter is watching this communication of business ordeal taking place, and it's like, wow, imagine if I had a 14-year-old daughter or a son, like, and that is what they're being introduced to, right?
Yeah, that's their baseline.
That's the baseline, and
Yeah.
from the baseline they grow. And I'm like, man, if my 14-year-old son or daughter was able to identify and see these type of business transactions, that being their baseline, then what's their 20-year-old self going to look like? What's their 25-year-old self going to look like? What their 40-year-old self? And that's what I look at generational wealth. There's the version of generational wealth, like I have to build enough real estate, for example, to give to my kid. But there's also this experience of, man, I gave my son or my daughter so much experience that I changed my bloodline. The Audate name is completely different, and it was because I came on Earth, and that's when I see Trump, that's what I see. When I see certain names, Buffett, that's what I see. When I see Elon
Mhm.
Musk, that's what I see. And I'm like, you came in on Earth and you completely changed your bloodline. Bloodline. Mark Zuckerberg, that's what I see. But the reason why that generational wealth fails, and there's curse upon your lineage, is because of lack of education.
Mhm.
I forget the quote where it's like one generation, earns it, one generation learns it, one generation earns it, one generation loses it. It's like three generations deep. And it's
Yeah.
because of lack of education. So if I can at least educate the next generation, then share like, hey, this is what it took to get this, then this is something that's going to last forever. I do see Audate being one of those names in the United States where it's like you see Rolls Royce, you hear McDonald's, you hear Trump, and you hear Audate, and it becomes synonymous with those names.
Yes, I think we have always been very clear that whatever we build will be bigger than us. And that is, I think, where we started shifting through from competition, like it's me, you, to collaboration. Because there's only so much that me and you can physically do. There's only so much that me and you can mentally do. And so we have, I would definitely say from my experience, all the collaboration, conversations, meetings. Just yesterday, I spent 3.5 hours in collaborative meetings. It's not a sales call. It's not a team call. It's actually going out there and talking to other people that are smarter than me, more advanced than me, and ahead of me, right? So I do think we do put in the time that maybe a lot of people don't know. Like, how many hours a week would you say that you're spending in a collaborative environment? That's because being within ourselves would be like it's just me, you, the team all the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
how many hours a week do you think you spend in this aspect of the business growth, which is meeting people, collaborating, having some serious conversations?
I'm going through an interesting journey right now where I'm identifying how much of that do I want to do, because it sounds good, all good and dandy to like fill up your calendar and meet with a lot of people. Then it also sounds good to like not meet with a lot of people and create the results, right? Now for me, I'm an introvert. Well, I've identified as an introvert. I don't know if I really am. I've identified as an introvert because I feel uncomfortable, and naturally I just want to stay home and chill with you on a Friday night. But I notice like that's not going to help me get to my goals. That's not going to help me create the relationships that I need to get to. And I just started recently listening to this book called Who Not How. And in the book, it talks about many entrepreneurs are always trying to identify how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? How do I do that? And sometimes the question is like, who do you need to connect with that will get you to that result? And one of the scenarios was talking about like a book deal that took place with I think it was called Penguin House, which is one of the biggest publishers. And so the author is like trying to figure out, how do I write a book that becomes massive? How do I write a book that becomes massive? And then all they needed was one connection, and that one connection connected them to Penguin House, and they did a multi-book deal. And Penguin House is like marketing the heck out of this book that this one person couldn't have actually done by themselves. So the question that now I'm asking is like, who, not how, and that's what my trend. And I'm only in the beginning of the book. I haven't even gone through the whole thing yet. When I'm just in the
Wow.
beginning of the book, and I'm trying to identify, okay, who do I need to connect with? And as I think about my previous, like what has allowed me to grow and grow and grow, it is relationships. It is like when I think about, I was 19 years old running a T-Mobile franchise. How is that possible? 19 years old, black guy from the hood, running a T-Mobile franchise. Oh, it wasn't because of something that I specifically did strategically. It was who I knew. There was somebody that I knew that happened to be a master dealer. I built a relationship with him. I added value to his business, and I got the opportunity at the right time. And I think about other opportunities from speaking engagements. It's like people would ask me, how did you get on that stage? Or how did you get that connection? Or how did you build that relationship? And I'm like, well, I was with this person. So many people sometimes think about that they want to go talk to Bill, like they want to go talk to the Bill, like this is Bill, the successful so and so, but they forget about Billy, which is the assistant or the friend, so on and so forth.
The one that actually knows the availability.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you want access, like as I've grown in my career and my business, I'm getting more and more requests. Like just during this call, I got 8 direct messages on social media on a different screen that's on in front of me, that's asking me to purchase their products or services, right? Or from video editors, so on and so forth, graphic designers, salespeople that want to work in our organization, and so forth. So that's 8 so far. And the way to get access, if you remember, like there was a gentleman who we just recently hired, and it wasn't even me that hired him. It was you. It was you
Yeah.
and it was you and Nicole. Now I'm not trying to share with people like this the way to get to Andy is go contact his wife, but it happened to be, I think, you and Nicole, that Nicole's someone who works on our team, that hired that person. And it's like, I wasn't there, but now he's part of the team. He's inside of our Slack, and now I'm messaging him and saying, hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the
Welcome to
team.
the team.
Welcome to the team. I got projects for you. Like, do this for me, do that for me, right? Do this. And it came from a place of like, it's not even Andy. If you want to get me on your stage, it's not even I'm not even interested in having a conversation, to be honest. Like in the beginning, I'm not, for me to speak on someone's stage, I want, you got to talk to someone else on my team, and my team member will coordinate, and they will be the one to look at the calendar. They will be the one to make sure that that is available slot. They would be the one paying to get me to that event if I'm speaking on your stage, and they would be the one coordinating with you and your team to make sure that I have all the correct details and I will show up at the right time. When I started it in my career, for some reason, I thought that guy Bill was the actual person to talk to. So I would go to these events and I would see this person speak on stage, and I'll be like, I would try to go get that person's attention, not realizing it's not even that person. They're not even the ones that make the decision, because there's so much data coming in front of their face that they look at someone else to filter that data. They look at someone else and they say, can you filter this data for me? And I'm going to go just based off what you say. And if what you say is good, and even if they have an idea, they typically send it to that person anyway, and they say, is this a good idea? And then if it is, then we'll do it.
That is so true. Because even in that scenario with the video editor, I think they had like messaged you, emailed you. They're like, here's what I did. Here's a sample of your own videos. And I think you forwarded to me. But in order for it to get accomplished, I forwarded to my assistant, Nicole. So at the end of the day, it really was Nicole giving the undivided attention that scheduled the interview, that got the
Yeah.
portfolio. So it's not that we are, if anything, we're not dismissing or any requests, or as the owner, or if somebody's trying to reach the main person, the founder, the CEO, there's just a billion things going on that day. So your best shot is to actually go to the one that manages their inbox or their calendar, because they actually have the full details and they can actually focus on it, not in between a meeting, not between something else, that they got going on. But that is true. I never thought about it. Like if someone needs to get on their calendars, it's kind of rare. It has to go through a few touch points.
Yeah, I mean, that's unless like you're in a certain mastermind. Like I've gone to certain masterminds where like it costs a lot of money to get into that room, and typically at that stage you're talking to the person directly because you're already in.
Yes.
So like I was at a mastermind where I spent I think 8 hours, and there's some of the top. I mean, so some businesses in that room are like $2 million a year. Some businesses are like $21 million a year. So you have the spectrum, but it's all founders. It's founders only mastermind. And being in that mastermind and spending 8 hours, you ultimately will communicate what you do. And when you're with other entrepreneurs, and if someone sees there's an opportunity to work with you, they're gonna bring that to your attention and get your number, and then they'll text you right away. But what I noticed with those folks, for example, is when we get on the call afterwards, it's straight to the point. It's like 90 seconds of connection. Hi, how are you? Oh my goodness, the mastermind was so dope. All right, great. And then there's just like this pause of like, all right. So the reason I'm on this call is because, and they go straight to the point, right?
Right.
And I go straight to the point. And the reason that we do that is because you can't spend, if they're busy, you're busy, everyone's busy. You got to go straight to the point. That's one way to get in, is to be in the rooms. So like if you want to go to that top tier person, is to be in the rooms. But even then, sometimes afterward, it's like, here's the process to get on my calendar. Here's the system, right? Send me a calendar link, talk to my assistant. But if you're not in those rooms, the next way is for you just to get on the person's calendar, or talk to Billy, not Bill. Talk to the second in charge.
I will give this perspective so I get a lot of your requests for you to speak on stage, you to be on a podcast, us to sponsor. Like we get a lot of requests, right? I will share a piece of knowledge that, for me at least, when someone asks me to collaborate or be part of something, or for you to be part of something, the one thing that disqualifies them is if they're not clear. So if someone has a 30-minute slot on my calendar, and I've had these meetings happen, they're like, oh, we want Andy to be here. We want Andy to do this. We want Progretta to sponsor, whatever it is, the event. If in the 30-minute slot, there is no clarity on what you need, by when, how much, what is the goal, I leave that meeting feeling like you had your shot. You're not going to get another one. Come back next year when you're clear. Now, it can sound harsh, but I think that's just part of my corporate world, where like when someone does have limited time, you got to take advantage, like you just mentioned. If you're in the room with them, or you have that call scheduled, you can't show up so excited that you're like, let me tell you about my life, my background, and this is what happened when I was 10 years old. Like, you got to be ready with an intention.
Yeah.
That's for me as the one that's filtering through a lot of events and requests. Because I have seen a lot of people, they want to collaborate, but it's unclear. And like, I can't lead that call because you're the one asking me to collaborate or be part
Uh,
of something. So what am I trying to be part of?
that's the clarity is power, man. If you're not clear, then it's like, okay, you know what? Let me think about it. And I've also seen that in salespeople, like when salespeople aren't clear, and I'm like, they want me to be the one to guide them, essentially.
Yeah.
You
You're
know,
closing yourself.
and I gotta close myself, and I'm like, you know what? You know
I
what?
take out my credit card.
Let me think about it. And then sometimes they're like, okay, you can think about it. Let me know. And I'm like, dude, I have nothing to think about. I don't know what you want. You were
That
all
was
over
the
the place.
call. That
That
was the
was the.
closing call.
I
Yeah.
got nothing to think about because you didn't give me enough information. And so I think about my journey, and that's how I sell to other people. Where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to waste anyone's time. I got to focus on creating results. So let me get straight to the point. Hey, look, the reason I think I'm on this call with you is I think my software could serve your business and help your
Mm-hmm.
business grow. My question for you, are you in a place where you're coasting and you're comfortable with your current results, or are you in a place where you want to grow, you want your business to grow?
Very true. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. So I already shared my advice. If someone's thinking they're listening to this and they're like, I do have some people in mind I want to collaborate, my piece of advice is just be clear. I'm not saying write out a whole business plan, but just have a one liner by when. What are you looking to bring to the table? What do you want them to bring to the table? What's your one piece of advice for someone that has now, realized like, well, maybe I should pick up the phone. Maybe I should set up this meeting. What's the first thing that they should do?
Don't, I would say pay attention to the total circle and not just the inner circle. Pay attention to the total circle. And if you pay attention to the total circle, you'll be able to identify who you want to build relationships with and who you want to connect with and who you want to grow with. Pay attention to the whole circle, meaning don't just focus on Bill who's on stage. Also put attention on to Billy who you see with the clipboard at the edge of the stage and say, okay, Billy is someone I want to get in contact with as well.
Very true. Very true. Well, I definitely heard a lot of valuable information here that Andy has never shared before, by the way. This was more of a topic that is overall for business growth, business strategy. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment and we can always expand on anything that he mentioned. And don't forget to subscribe because that way you'll be alerted for the weekly post. Anything else you want to share with everybody, Andy?
That's it. That's it. And now you just got to take action on it.
Take action. We'll have a great rest of your day.